will go through. Baltimore Saints move up 2 spots after their victory and a record-setting evening for Drew Brees. We'll get to that in just a moment. To number 2, and you can see the rest 3 through 8, but let's focus on that number 2 slot there, Dan Hanzus, because you have someone through social media that has taken umbrage with your position.
Who would do that?
Currently a wild card team, but second ranked in the league. Okay.
Toaster.
Well, Toaster, it's just one of those things. If you want to just judge everything by the standings, don't look at the power rankings. Look at the standings. I mean, that's so. Yes, they are technically not
Did I
the
miss
number
something?
2 team.
Are they not division champ? Are they suggesting coming at Dan Hanzus and saying, "Hey, they're a wild card
just
team"?
weak.
They're not a wild card team.
That's
What are you
right.
talking about?
Wait a second. That's
Exactly.
true too. What's going on, Toaster?
Hey, idiot! Don't be an idiot.
Hey, plug in, Toaster.
So there we go. We use an
Plug
inaccurate
in
tweet.
Toaster. Perfect. I love
An
it.
inaccurate tweet to launch our discussion.
Man, we are flying.
Over who is the best team in the NFC, Dan Hanzus. Get us started. They're your rankings. I would assume you're going with the Saints. You got them at number 2.
Yeah, that would be really weird if I didn't. I have to say that until Monday night, I was a little bit on the fence with the Saints. I knew that they were one of the best teams in the league, but they hadn't been showing it. They were stacking wins, but not necessarily playing extremely well or what we thought they could play at, the level we thought they could play at. And then, they turned the Colts into an XFL expansion franchise. And the Colts, by the way, aren't a terrible team. I know they're banged up and maybe they peaked too soon. But this was a team just dismantling another NFL team. And Drew Brees, all the talk, he had the thumb injury. There was some speculation that maybe his arm strength was starting to become an issue, the way it has become for Phillip Rivers out here. But you know what? He looks as good as he's ever looked. I'm still worried about some of their defensive injuries. But the Saints, to me, are the best team in the NFC, and they could be peaking right now.
Agree, disagree?
Well, you brought up my point that I was going to make about the defense. I'm a little worried, like Marcus Davenport, Sheldon Rankins, they're both gone. Like, you didn't need them in this game. This is a kind of a blowout, like they're early. So you didn't see the impact of not having 2 of the defenders on this team. Now you get Janoris Jenkins coming in. Yeesh, like this is not necessarily... It's just cause for concern. It's not going to change
Against playoff teams.
Against playoff teams, yeah. Like
against the Colts.
Look, the Colts are a better team than maybe they're better than what they saw on Monday night. That's for sure. But I don't know if you put them up against Patrick Mahomes. Yikes.
In the Super Bowl. Yeah, for me it's I guess I answer it without an answer, and that's that I think the best team in the NFC will be the team that has home field. To me, and look, there's a lot of debate about whether or not home field matters anymore, but it's pretty hard not to make that case with at least 2 of these 3 teams. The Seattle Seahawks don't lose at home. They don't. They do not lose at home.
Except to the Saints
in the playoffs.
With Teddy Bridgewater.
No, I'm talking in the
Got
playoffs.
it.
In the playoffs, they don't lose home games. The Saints are dramatically better inside the Superdome than they are outside of it. So if the Saints end up number 1 or the Seahawks end up number 1, I think you're going to feel a lot different about those teams and their path to the Super Bowl.
I have a harder time with true number 1 versus, look, just having a bye and only having to roll the dice twice as opposed to rolling the dice 3 times in order to make it to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
That's a monstrous thing. So the bye is going to be huge.
It'll affect the Seahawks or Niners, whichever one of those 2 teams has to play 3 road games
3
as
games
opposed to a bye and home games. Certainly that makes a big difference, but I don't know what it is about people pushing back on the home field right now. For some reason, that's become a big thing, and it's like, have you not been to Foxborough in the postseason? Have you not seen what it's like trying to deal with that nightmare? It matters. And
As
I think
a person
it
who
absolutely matters
spent
here.
way too much time thinking about the math behind this and trying to negotiate with okay, how do you find the right comp for where it does matter? I'm going to tell you that there is evidence that it matters, but certain attributes of certain teams make it matter more or less. Like defensive fronts that are really stout, that quote unquote travels better, and that actually is true. So it depends on what the team kind of does, how the team dynamic really works in order to really get the advantage at home. But ultimately, it's what things, when you don't have your regular schedule, what things persist and what things don't.
Hell, nobody's going to beat the Ravens anyway. Let's get out of here.
Well, actually,
Still going.
You know what? On that note, let's segue into individual accomplishment power rankings.
I like it.
All right. If you feel like it is a fait accompli.
I don't actually.
First, I want to remind you, speaking of the 49ers and their quest to be the number 1 seed, we didn't even mention them in the conversation. They will be part of our Saturday tripleheader. Coverage begins at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. All of these games only on NFL Network. It starts with Texans, Buccaneers, Bills, Patriots, the AFC East up for grabs in Week 16. How about that? And then the Rams trying to stay alive and the 49ers trying to get that #1 seed.
Will he get it here? Yes! Touchdown pass by 4-0.
19 years, 273 games, over 76,000 yards. Now 540 touchdowns. Drew Brees, take a bow.
Career stats. Drew Brees, top 5 in everything, and a whole lot of #1s, yards, 300-yard games, passing touchdowns in the regular season, and 5,000-yard seasons, 5 of them. So it brings us to our conversation of Drew Brees' career ranks, career ranking, and where you slot him in, Jesus.
Doesn't it feel a little bit unfair that he doesn't even get talked about in the same breath as Brady and Peyton Manning?
I think so.
And it's undeniable that what he's been able to do when you look at he now has the all-time passing yardage record, the all-time completion percentage record, the all-time touchdown record. He's 40 years old and he's turning 41 in a month or so, and he's going 29 of 30 on Monday Night Football. So while he can't even be the old guy that gets the shine because Tom Brady already came and took that from him as well. So I think it was nice. It was good that it happened in prime time on Monday Night Football because on some level, as famous and as successful as Brees has been, I don't think he's gotten maybe the credit he deserves for what's been an all-time career.
Cynthia?
I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, assuredly. The interesting part for me when it comes to Drew Brees, I just think it's one of the biggest weird things in the entire NFL that he's never won the MVP with all of those accolades, overcoming a lot of those yardage things.
5,000 yards.
5,000. You know why? He's had crappy defenses. To get those kind of wins and to overcome the kind of things that he's had to in order to get those wins, he's the reason driving. How has he never been the MVP of our league? How does that happen?
You said our league.
I did that for you. Sometimes I troll my friend here.
Like you mentioned, Brady and Brees and Peyton Manning, and I guess that's kind of where you enter the conversation of, okay, how great is he? Well, let's go. You've got to win a Super Bowl. Is Brees on anybody's list? Is he ahead of Brady? Is he ahead of Montana? Is he ahead of Elway? What about Marino? What about, to me, the most interesting comp for Brees is Peyton Manning because they both played indoors. They both, to some degree, had complete command of their offenses. The difference with Brees is he had Sean Payton, who's arguably the greatest play caller of his era. I mean, he and Andy Reid are going to be bandied about as that guy. But for Brees, you look at Peyton Manning, had Edgerrin James, had Marvin Harrison. Drew Brees made stars of guys like Marcus Colston and Lance Moore and Joe Horn. And just think about what happened to Jimmy Graham when he left New Orleans. He's traded to Seattle, can't last there. Traded to Green Bay, assume he's going to be this great receiver. Didn't happen there. I mean, that's where the pro Brees camp comes in. The anti-Brees is you're in a dome, you're playing with Sean Payton, and your numbers are just going to be better than guys that have to play outside in the elements and have to lean maybe more on a run game because it's December.
Isn't it funny that we always do the Brady without Belichick or Belichick without Brady, the two pieces, they're kind of equally, they're equally. The same should be here too. I know 100%. Sean Payton's an offensive guy, but it doesn't mean that he's got a little control inside Drew. He's not a joystick, right? Drew Brees is doing it. They're the same kind of
connected.
Lockstep as well.
Yeah, everything you're saying makes sense, but I'm bummed out hearing Drew Brees getting hit with the Coors Field effect, which an MLB, the Rockies play in a stadium where all the stats are inflated, so nobody takes them seriously. Are we really going to ding Brees that hard?
I think
He's
he had
played
bad
half
defenses.
his games on the road in his career.
I think he had bad defenses.
Well, that's why I brought up Peyton Manning. I think you can make that correlation.
And Manning went to
Peyton
Denver and did it outside.
Did it outside for a season, 2 seasons.
I got a little messy with that second one.
He got old.
Exactly. Got old quick.
A little messy.
Look, I think the one thing, if you were to celebrate Brees, the one thing I would say is if you talk to scouts and front office people and you ask them what is the most important attribute a quarterback can have, accuracy. And he's the most accurate quarterback in the history of the NFL. And that comes by throwing more passes than anyone in the history of the NFL.
Actually, those two things don't always go together.
Right?
More passes usually means less accurate just because of...
And accuracy isn't sexy. People like the deep balls. And
You know what? That's
attacking
not true. I
downfield.
think accuracy is very sexy.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they
Math.
want Aaron Rodgers patting the ball 900 times and then throwing it deep. All right, 9 through 16. Dan Hanzus. Here we go. Second category. Texans atop after their big victory in Tennessee over the Titans. They slide back to the Bills, up just a tick to number 10 after a primetime road victory in Pittsburgh as the Steelers stay static at 12. All right, as we focus on this, let's start with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I think the Bills, the issue they have is it's always but with the Bills because, they almost beat the Patriots, they almost beat the Ravens, and then they beat the Cowboys, and it's like, but the Cowboys might not be that good. And now they beat the Steelers, and it's like, but Duck Hodges.
4 picks.
But all this is, who cares about this? The only thing I really want to know is, why does Cynthia Freeland hate the Bills?
Fair point.
Forget about every other
I don't hate the
subplot
Bills.
around the NFL right now. When are we going to get it? That the machine, her data, her system, and the woman herself despises the Bills and their fans, quite frankly.
Certainly.
Answer to that, Cynthia.
That's all fair.
Listen.
All fair points.
I've never once hated the Bills. I have. There's
Never
nothing.
once
Never
hated
once.
the Bills.
I
Took
don't
you to this week
necessarily
to say
like.
they'd make the playoffs. So
I-
this week when they made the playoffs,
I
to say they were going to make the
don't
playoffs.
necessarily love the way their fans speak to me on Twitter. But
Well,
apart
that's
from
any
that,
team.
but I appreciate that they're passionate fans. I actually my very first producer, biggest Bills fan, like legendary ESPN story where he responded to reply all, "Go Bills." Scott Van Pelt still tells that story today. So it is.
That's not you. That's
And you
your
never
producer.
spoke to him
like
again
him,
after
though.
that.
Don't try to hop on his train.
I
That's
like
his.
the Bills. I have nothing. Last year I was too nice to the Bills because I wouldn't. And then this year I'm too.
Yeah.
Bills fans are
By the
crazy.
way,
That
I'd like to
wasn't
point out,
convincing
Dan
to me.
Hanzus.
Yeah.
You are complicit in this because there's a guy that was sitting right in the middle who has been with the Bills all season long, saying
Now
they
you're
are
all
going
getting on the
to
Bills
No, you're
bandwagon.
saying you were
the
sitting on the
playoffs.
fence.
They are going to make the playoffs, and until they finally made the playoffs, the more important part when it comes to the Bills is, are they going to do anything in the playoffs?
Yeah, I
And
think-
that's I think kind of worth
We
asking.
had the argument or conversation, closer to an argument, a few weeks back when they were sitting at 13 on the power rankings, and I said they'll be sitting at 13 forever. That's exactly who they are. And yes, now they're at 10 because they've had some nice wins. But to me, they still are that really good team that's not a great team. And if you want to, when you have to put on the big boy pants in January,
What do the big boy pants look like?
they're cargo jeans with the hook,
Cargo jeans.
but no hammer.
Those are horrible. Those are terrible
So
pants.
like '90s big boy.
Like Aeropostale.
But I mean, they
cargo
have a
pants.
dominant
Got
defense.
it.
I mean, not good, but a dominant
their defense is great.
at all 3 levels. And you said it, Cynthia, that travels. That travels. If they have to go to Houston to play a wild card game and you're taking that defense with you, I think to me, it's Josh Allen. I think that's what it comes down to, right? Do you
Yes.
trust Josh Allen to win a playoff game?
I think Josh Allen's fun.
I don't know. I know
what
I
you think,
don't
Cynthia.
know. I feel like the reason why they're in all these games and every one of these games has been close because that defense is that good. So I think that's kind of
is.
what it comes down to. It's not about whether or not you believe in the Bills. It's whether or not you believe in Josh Allen. That's the question.
It's very hard to believe in a second-year quarterback who's had a lot of awesome at rushing touchdowns, red zone, his awareness in the red zone, his own body, awesome. But then you also see some things where you're like, that's a weird. There's been
the touch isn't
weird,
there yet.
weird.
The accuracy on the
It's
passes
only
isn't quite
second
there
year.
yet.
You don't even know who quarterback is for at least 3 seasons. I know that sounds
Accuracy is sexy, and by this
accuracy.
metric,
very
he's not sexy.
Right.
That's a problem.
Not
Although
sexy.
props to John Brown. I mean, certainly added a whole lot, at least a playmaker
Smoke.
to that offense. So it's
Yeah.
not entirely on Josh
Same with
Allen.
Cole
it's
Beasley, though.
weapons.
Cole Beasley's helps,
Exactly.
too.
All right, so we shift from the AFC East to the NFC East, and a looming situation there.
I really hate
in
all
Week
those
16.
teams.
Here we go.
Oh, no. Look at
Just a lot of
this.
trash cans. Well done.
That's
well,
excellent.
Well done.
That tells an entire story in one humorous image.
Exactly right.
That's
man.
good. And good job, Internet.
Right. Well
Handle
done.
his thing.
So let's go. Cowboys, Eagles, 13 and 14 in your power rankings.
I just
you
want
got?
to make it clear
Who do you got?
to anyone watching this, and as we get closer to game day, when you're watching the talking head shows or listening to a podcast or doing whatever in terms of what your media plate is, anyone that speaks with extreme confidence about how this game is going to go or how the Cowboys are going to play, they should be viewed with extreme suspicion because no one knows how this game is going to play out.
Who are you taking shots at there, Jesus?
No, you know who I'm talking about.
Oh,
but in
who?
general, if you are actually following the league, you know our league that the Cowboys are a different team almost week to week or month to month. So to guess that they're going to be what they were
had been
Sunday
the same team prior to the Rams game
for a couple of weeks,
team.
yeah. They had a hot
really
3-week
bad
streak. They had a bad 3-week streak, and then they've alternated wins and losses. They are
a bad
unpredictable.
3-week streak, and
Yeah.
you know, I think just to inject myself into this conversation.
Do it.
You know, I had been waiting for the Cowboys to beat a good team. You know, I'm not saying the Rams are great. They have their flaws, but they came in playing some pretty good football, having knocked off the Seahawks. And the Cowboys used a formula that they should have been using all season long: 2 100-yard rushers, lean on the violence of that running game, break tackles, tear the heart out of an opponent, the figurative heart out of an opponent. And
Thank you for
they
clarifying.
should be doing.
Literal heart.
That was important that you clarified that.
Exactly.
We don't want to
make
make
sure.
the doom scenarios
Exactly.
on a football
Wanna
field.
make sure.
You know, so I go through and every game has like how many times the winner comes up.
Right.
And just so you know, like I actually want props from you about our league here. I only have the winner in winning 51.1% of the time. I have the Eagles.
But that's good. See,
51.1. It is a
the
coin
data
flip.
R backs it up. Did I do that right?
Yeah.
The data is
Data R backs it up.
I don't know.
You
got me
data
all
are
around
correct.
it. The data are correct.
Correct.
That this is a coin flip game.
Yeah. So I just needed some
Now
props.
think
So
how
if you were to
silly
lose-
that sounds.
I
The data
basically
are
just-
correct.
I
Come on
just
now.
basically needed you to like give me some.
No, you nailed
After
it.
all
You
that
hit a home
Bills
run.
meanness,
Right.
I need a little something.
So you have Eagles or Cowboys?
The data are correct.
I don't care about the data. What do
The
you got?
data is the Cowboys, but you know what? I love Carson Wentz. I have to just say I do. I know he's an imperfect quarterback at this stage of his career and his accuracy,
Yeah.
and again, accuracy is sexy, but he's not all the way there, and his supporting cast stinks right now.
Sure does.
Who
Greg
are they?
Ward Jr.
Exactly.
is his number
Never
one.
heard of him.
J.J. Arcega-Whiteside has 9 catches, and he's been on the field for like 9,000 snaps, and yet he's put his team on his back like a true franchise quarterback does in the past 2 weeks. He's at home. That makes this more interesting, this game. If it was in Dallas, I would think maybe the dream dies a little bit for the Eagles. But that's why I see it as a coin flip. I'll pick the Cowboys because they are just the more talented team, healthier team. But again, anybody speaks with confidence
So
is a
Eagles,
fraud.
Cowboys.
Not a fraud.
I will abstain, so we can have the 50-50. There is no.
I always
declared
like in
winner.
the pregame shows
Right?
when the host takes himself so serious. He's like,
Yes.
well, I can't pick.
Can't pick.
Won't do it.
All right, we'll be
impugn my
when we
integrity.
return. We'll get some honorable
My
mentions.
integrity.
Focus on a few of the teams we did not talk about in the top 6.
the near hash. Snap from Matt. Looks left. Matt throws. Caught. Jones chopped down short of the end zone. Is he ruled in or out? He's ruled short. I got to review the play.
Oh, my goodness.
Ryan to Jones has given Atlanta the lead. 23-22. 10 plays, 70 yards, and 146.
Unbelievable.
By the way, not that I know anything about football, but hey, Jimmy Ward, how about not playing 4 yards deep in the end zone? How about if a touchdown beats you, be on the goal line?
How about
not
game
4 yards
officials
deep in the end zone?
Don't blow it twice.
That? And by the way, aside number 2, Denver Broncos. When you do the color rush and it's your 1980s, Buck and Bronco through the D, and everyone gets all excited about you bringing those back, just go ahead and bring them back. Just go ahead and get rid of the 1990s grunge era Denver Broncos uniforms bring back the ones that everybody likes better.
They're in the same issue that the Patriots have. Everybody knows the Patriots have a terrible logo and uniform.
It's horrible.
But it's now, that's their history. You can't go back to Pat Patriot when he didn't have any bling.
Right. Different for the Broncos. Now, granted, they won the 2 in that.
I'm almost 40.
But the Chargers did it right. They went back to the powder blues.
Yes.
They recognized. All right, here we go.
Chargers haven't done everything right. But
let's go power moves presented by Energizer, the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still going.
Well done.
I mean, come on, Sin.
Power moves. Falcons up 5 spots after that game-winning touchdown to Julio Jones at the end of the contest. Why'd you move them up? And what do we make of the Falcons? Surge, even though they are out of the playoff race, yet are playing very hard, knocking off some good competition.
I mean, I wouldn't go too crazy about how high you move up in this soft underbelly of the power rankings because it's so easy to pass a bunch of teams that are fading at this point. However, it does bode well for Dan Quinn having a shot here to keep his job, I think, because when you have a real big win on the road against the conference superpower, it's something that will give ownership some pause. I had this conversation with Greg Rosenthal, my Around the NFL podcast colleague. He thinks Quinn's a goner no matter what, and maybe he is. But I just think if they could finish strong, win a couple more games in concert with this Niners game and that little streak they had a month ago, they might say Dan Quinn's a guy who gets one more year.
I'm not speaking to a lot of people, but I did hear from 2 separate people, and this is not breaking news, but the players love Dan Quinn, absolutely love playing for him. That is evident, and to some degree, this was a mantra in a players-only meeting that was, we like this guy, we don't want to lose this guy, we got to win some games if he's going to be able to stick around, and I think that's what you're seeing, and if you're ownership and the games don't mean a whole lot. By the way, aside number 3, the games do mean a lot. Because players don't have guaranteed contracts. You have constantly got to put play on tape in order to A, keep your job, or B, if you are seeking a new contract or have a restructure with more signing. The games always matter to the players. They are always going to play hard because it is a league financially structured in the manner that it is. They're always going to play. But as a collective, I believe they are playing for Dan Quinn in an effort to try and keep his job. And
unless it's the Browns. Then you're not playing hard anymore.
No.
According to Kareem Hunt.
Right about that. We'll get to that, by the way,
Yeah.
in a minute in our honorable mentions. But the Chargers down 3 spots after the worst game, that I have ever seen them play. If you weren't aware, I call their games on the radio. This is my 3rd season, and I had never seen anything remotely close
Oh, money.
to that
So
bad.
you had the front row seat. You were the voice of the Chargers. 7 turnovers.
7.
And here's
4
the crazy
from Phillip
thing.
Rivers on his own.
Money. This is a 10-9 game. You're calling a ball game, and then what happens?
Daniel Jeremiah, the prophetic Jeremiah, says prior to Rivers dropping back with an opportunity to take a 13-12 lead into the half with possession to start the second half, there's only 2 things you can't have happen here. One, you can't take a sack, and 2, you can't turn it over. And there it is. It is a strip sack turnover that gets returned for the touchdown. And the floodgates from there open because on the opening possession of the second half, Melvin Gordon fumbles.
I actually thought it was the same
deep in
play.
his own territory. It was an ugly effort. 7 turnovers, should have been 8, and you could argue that it really was 9 because you had a punt blocked and possession start in your own territory, and you had a turnover on downs, which is a turnover. So yeah, it was. It's the worst game I've ever seen the Bolts play, which was competitive for the first 29 minutes and 25 seconds.
So what do they do now? What happens in the offseason?
I mean, I think obviously it's quarterback. That's the number one question. Is Phillip Rivers coming back, A? And B, if he's not, is it one of the big-name free agents or trade acquisitions that are being bandied about, Tom Brady, Cam Newton, or is it the draft? Because as it sits right now, they have a top 10 pick. And you've got, it seems like two big quarterbacks in the top tier. If Tua is healthy, Tua or Joe Burrow, you may have to trade up to get one of those two guys, but they have some draft equity to do that. So that would be my guess for the Bolts in the offseason, especially moving into a brand new stadium where you got to have some sizzle.
If we went back to August and you told me that there was a good chance that both Eli Manning and Phil Rivers would end their careers with their teams this season, I would have been surprised because Rivers was humming along after this year.
Pro Bowl.
So it's been one of the bigger surprises just how poorly it's gone for him and the Chargers.
Certainly is. And whether or not he said he wanted to stick around to open up that new stadium. We'll see whether or not he and the Chargers decide that's stadium. A good idea.
If it's giving me anxiety, I don't imagine what it's doing for the Chargers.
25 through 32. Take a quick look because it's now gone. To the honorable mentions.
You want to talk about the Jets?
No, we're not. Vikings stay at number 8 after, and by the way, Danielle Hunter, robbed of the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. He forced 2 fumbles and had a 3rd fumble recovery of those 7. That man was a nightmare for the Chargers all day.
Maybe the consolation is that in a great wide-open Defensive Player of the Year fight this season, Hunter
certainly
he just shined up his resume just a little bit more. And I love that the Vikings get a Monday night game at home where they are really tough to beat against a Packers team that might be masquerading as a Super Bowl contender.
Masquerade.
Masquerading.
Lie.
Do you like the Vikings?
Masquerading. I like the Vikings. I don't love the Vikings.
Will they win one of these last 2 to make the playoffs?
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be the Bears. I don't think that they win this week. I think that the Packers sneak and take one. Packers defense we've seen it have up and down performances, but overall it's better than expected. And if Dalvin Cook doesn't play, that changes the composition of this Vikings offense. So that's a real big kind of linchpin for me. If Dalvin Cook's not playing, I think the Packers win. If Dalvin Cook does play, then it'll
Madison, the backup, who's been really promising this year, he's banged up with the ankle. That's a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins, who hasn't always responded that well in these type of settings.
Mike Boone, though, 2 touchdowns.
Hey,
Don't
very
chase
hard.
that in fantasy. Don't
Texans,
chase that.
9, up 1 spot, big victory in Tennessee.
That was nice. I loved it. And Deshaun Watson's one of my favorite players to watch. So seeing him in that spot and stepping up, and the defense I thought was something you really took out of that game. Now they weren't flawless, and they're not going to look at that play by Tennessee.
Love it.
They're not going to be flawless with J.J. Watt out, but what they were able to do.
They're not going to be flawless with J.J. Watt in
that Nashville to hold that team scoreless in the first half and then make the stops they needed, get the big Whitney Merciless play there. They're a team that's also hard to figure out. They're like the AFC Cowboys, where week to week they're a little bit dicey.
They play their competition. If they're playing someone who's hard, Patriots, Titans, like someone they need to get the win, they seem to show up. Other times
that
it's
bodes
like
well for the postseason.
It does.
Right, like coin flip.
That's good then.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Buccaneers.
The most fun
Playing
team
great.
right now to watch because Jameis Winston is insane. I am tracking this. I don't think anybody else is. In fact, our great NFL media research team, I just fired off an email before coming over to the set
what's the
today.
email say?
Has anyone ever gone 30-30 before at the quarterback
30
positions?
TDs, 30 picks.
30 TDs, 30 picks. Right now, he's sitting on 30 touchdowns and 24 interceptions. You tell me he can't throw 6 in 2 weeks?
Could
well,
easily.
there's a dream that could be had that could come true. That's what I want. I also want him to throw 7 more touchdowns. Give me like a 37-30 season with 5,300 yards. And you know, by the way, Bruce Arians will not say goodbye to James Winston. He loves this gunslinger
Your
stuff.
pick prophecy is probably going to, to me, that's a really interesting one because Godwin gone, possibly. Mike Evans, not there. So if you don't have your best playmakers out, like Rashad Perriman.
He's still going to be throwing it up.
Yeah, no, he's still going to be throwing it up. It's just to
That's what I mean.
It's a lot better to come down with it if you're Mike
Might be
Evans,
caught by the wrong
right?
He'll be back next year, no question.
Oh, I'm not worried
Jameis
about
is
him
gonna
being
be
back. No, he's back.
Here we go. Honorable mention, Browns down 2 spots, Hanzus.
What a mess. They're
Hot mess.
The Browns
If you had our
players-
mess power rankings,
Yeah.
they'd be one, right?
Yes, they
Oh,
would
yeah.
be right at
Yeah.
the number one.
Okay, got it.
And when the players, and this is reported by our own in our league, Mike Silver, Jarvis Landry, and other Browns players, were asking the Cardinals to come get us. The Cardinals, who have no Super Bowls in 60, 70 years. It's just a toxic
In
situation.
fairness, Arizona's a much better tax state than Ohio.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. Kitchens
Facts,
is one and
you
done.
know?
It seems like the only path that Dorsey's going to take.
He's
to
not
come
one and
out
done.
of jail.
I think he stays.
I would be very, very careful about damaging Baker Mayfield after kind of that promising start last year. The back end, what a mess that's become. Fragile psyche of young quarterbacks in this league is something that cannot be ignored, and certainly it is not going well for Baker. All right, when we return,
love
Cynthia, you take center stage as you
finally.
focus your Freeland Power 5 teams most likely to win the Super Bowl. Still going, back on Power Rankings, a reminder, 1 through 8 per hour, Dan Hanzus and his subjective observations, and we segue from the subjective to the analytically based
Hands us, by the way.
aggregates. Well, I'm just saying.
I don't know if it's a
Cynthia's
show
got
business
math
thing,
behind
but-
her. You're just like, hey, man, check that out.
Well, it's real versus feel. We've established that months ago.
Just because it rhymes doesn't mean it's cooler. Here we go, Cynthia, what do you got?
Well, you can see we agree on the Ravens, and the Saints is first there. We have some shifts here down with the back half. It's very hard to take you too seriously. With you. No, but
That's a big number on the Ravens, though. Like what? About 2 weeks ago, our top spot was like 12%. Now you got them all the way up to 15%.
as we're starting to see who exactly is going to make the playoffs, those numbers get redistributed. There's less, pie to have to split amongst different mouths, or same amount of pie, fewer mouths to feed.
Something with mouths.
Pie
and mouths. That's what we're talking about. Fewer mouths, same size pie.
That's what we're talking
Bigger
about.
piece going to spots like the Ravens.
Exactly.
And you still got the Chiefs in there, the frisky Chiefs at number 5. Niners at number 3. Let's focus on that one.
Okay, so the Niners, for me, they're the only team in the NFC that's in control. And by control, I mean, like, if they win, they don't need any other combination of things to happen in order to secure the number 1 seed.
Okay.
So all they have to do is win their next 2 games, which that's not going to be super easy, but it's Rams this week and then at
Home.
Seattle.
At Seattle.
Yep, and that's the one where if they do both of that, then they are the number 1 seed. That's going to be such a huge difference maker between them and the Seahawks in terms of who's a wild card and who's not. That's why, because I have the Niners with the best chances to get that number 1 seed, that's why they're number 3.
It's interesting to me because just a brutal loss to the Falcons.
But it was like that was an unlucky loss, right? It was.
I mean, just the fact that you allow that team to be in that game after trading punches with the Saints to the tune of a 40
But you're
burger
still
and a
missing.
victory
You were
on the
missing like
road.
7 of your defensive pieces. Now you should be getting
Understand.
them back. And then the Seahawks on the other side, they're losing. Like, is Jadeveon Clowney going to be playing? Is Quandre Diggs playing? Is Bobby Wagner okay? There's a lot of injuries in both of those too, and that's going to really decide the.
I just look at their
entire
remaining
conference.
schedule and I say, Rams, team that should have beat them. Greg Zuerlein does not miss 40-yard field goals, missed a game winner in that one. And the Seahawks, who already beat them in San Francisco, pretty darn tough 2 games. All right. And congratulations, by the way, to the Ravens at 15%, atop Cynthia's rankings. We now hand it over to our dear friends, Mark Sessler and Chris Webster, for another installment of
All right, guys, thanks so much for having us back on. Mark Sessler along with Chris Wessling. And Wes, I can't think of a better guy in the building to compile what you're working on this week, which is a all-decade team. Every key position, no fullbacks. Your list, you put in a ton of tape research into it. It's a season-long, decade-long study by you. Talk to me about a couple of the underrated players on this list.
I look at this decade, and when you think about when it started, the best linebacker duo in the NFL was Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. They were sort of like the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Bowman was the Pippen to Willis's Jordan, and Willis looked like a certain Hall of Famer. Navarro Bowman was a Defensive Player of the Year candidate for a little bit, and then Bowman shreds his knee in that playoff game against the Seahawks. Patrick Willis retires early due to foot injuries, and we've kind of forgotten about them, but just how dominant they were at the beginning of this decade. If their careers played out a few years longer, I think they'd be on this list.
You know, when you bring it up and you think about that Niners team, the journey that San Francisco went through and how transformed they were when Jim Harbaugh came, and then when he was gone, the team essentially crumbled. It was the loss of these guys. They lost, I think we talked about 4,000, 5,000 snaps when Jim Tomsula, a bit over his head, came in, and he was there for 1 year with a marginalized roster. And then Chip Kelly was there for 1 year, and the organization went into this total black hole. And you look at that journey that the Niners were on, the Super Bowl, the playoffs, and that whole Jim Harbaugh vibe, that's got to be one of the most underrated teams of the decade.
I think it absolutely did, and they delivered in the playoffs. Great game against the Saints, great game against the Packers, great game against the Seahawks. They delivered. They were primetime television, and you had not just Bowman and Willis, but Justin Smith playing at a really high level. Alden Smith before his career went down the tank. They had Deshaun Goldson and Dante Whitner in the back end of that secondary. It was a really star-studded defense.
And I thought Frank Gore fits so well in their backfield. And he's not making your first-team All-Pro thing, but he's hanging out there on the edges too.
Vernon Davis, Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith, and then even the coordinators. You had Greg Roman, who is now doing wonders with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, and you also have Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator, now the Broncos head coach.
What a crew. All right, so Wes's amazing all-decade team article will come out this Friday. I don't care what you're doing. Drop it. Drop any activities you have. Get on NFL.com. Check this thing out. Or else, who are you?
All right, well done.
Who are you?
Fangio. I'm glad we got a Fangio. Has
Had
to
they
happen
won that
every
Super
show.
Bowl, who knows? A great Dave Damashek, NFL,
Yes.
had the 49ers, not the Ravens, ended up coming victorious out of there. All right, when we return, do a little random ranker. We will visit nostalgia
this is a good one.
and Christmas toys.
Yes.
And also get to some constructive criticism. Very old. Random ranker. Showing off how old I am because I'm old. Thanks a lot, Cynthia. That
You
was
know,
nice.
I
Yeah,
just was
whatever.
curious.
It's
I was
okay.
curious.
You act like he's a Bills fan or something.
Right? Treating me like dirt. Random Ranker Christmas toys. It is the season. I am all about commercialism and secular Christmas. So let's celebrate.
Where's
what
the
gets you
nativity
excited
set here, by the way?
on Christmas morning.
That's not Jesus, that's Santa.
Exactly right. Listen, we're children inside these skulls of ours. You know, we live the life of a child. We cheer for men in plastic outfits. So let's focus on Christmas toys that move the needle for us.
All right.
Number 5, video game system. I don't want to age myself or you. Whatever the video game system was that got you going, like this young man getting that Nintendo 64 and
That's
freaking
great.
out. It could have been the Atari, the NES, the Genesis, the Xbox, the PS, the PlayStation. Getting the video games, cranking that thing, ripping that thing open, and getting whatever included game was in there, in the hopes that maybe you got 1 or 2 more in your stocking.
That gift right there. That, as a father of 2 young boys, that's all I want. I
Right.
want to get one. If I can give them one gift where that's the reaction.
Pretty great. And I love the sister like,
She's like,
yeah, I think
okay.
we're into this, right? You're excited, so I'm excited.
Yeah,
Darn
Nintendo
right.
was for me. Nintendo, the system, was the one that I did that for.
Yeah, me too.
Number 4,
Super Nintendo.
Star Wars toys is what I would say. With Star Wars back, you got the big movie coming out, Last Skywalker on, yes, and exactly
You know,
right.
Disney actually dropped the ball on this one. They forgot to like tell the person they licensed their toys with about Baby Yoda. So there are no official Baby Yoda toys until May.
Is that
Just so you
right?
know, facts.
Oh, they blew
Learning
that.
here,
There
dropping
you go.
knowledge on you. Hasbro, they weren't able to make it in time.
My old man Keith got me a Thundercats Lair in '86.
There you go. I
And
think
he
action figures work.
fully built out.
Yeah.
He didn't. It wasn't in the box. He built it overnight, and then or Santa did.
Very
And when
nice.
I got out, it was sitting next to the
Ready
tree,
to be played
and
with.
that was
There
me
you
doing
go.
the fist pump.
Yeah, I had the Death Star as a child. Maybe if you were a little younger than I, it was He-Man, Masters of the Universe.
Yep,
I think
big
Transformers fit into that category.
Sure.
Whatever, a toy. You know, for the girls, maybe it was the whatever. I don't know. The
I really
Barbie
liked
Dream
Legos.
House, the-
I got like a massive Lego thing,
Oh,
and
love
that's
Legos.
love it.
All
I was
about
all
Legos.
about the Legos.
Number
Legos.
3, what do I have? Oh yeah, how about Mattel Classic Football? Again,
Ooh.
dating myself, but this was the video game before we had the Nintendo, where it was
How
just a
old are
series
you,
of
Matt?
dashes.
That's why I was
47.
asking him. He doesn't
so
look
this was
47.
late 70s. It was my older brother Kevin that actually got Mattel electronic
Of course, you have a brother
football.
named Kevin.
But I would steal it, and you would reset the play with the old ST there.
That
You could
looks
kick,
fun.
but no one ever hit the K to kick the field goal.
No.
Instead, it was all about those arrows there. Get that thing rolling. Number 2, and this is where I will. So those are all things you could play on your own.
Mm-hmm.
You could do on your own. But now 2-in-1, I was all about getting the toys that brought the other kids in. The Nerf football
Yes.
and the Nerf basketball. You put it on the back of the door, and you
What a
and your
great
brother
image
can
this
get
is.
after it.
Who are
Or
these
the
super
neighborhood
athletes?
kids.
I know. Is that really in perspective, or is
Oh
that just
yeah,
a very
I
little
can't tell
door?
you how many times I would hear Ralph scream from the living room. What are you kids doing in here? Because you're banging against the door. Or if you got the Nerf football, you would slide out of the front door on Christmas morning after.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, maybe if you're a church-going family, you go to church, or after you open the presents and everyone starts to congregate in the street. You got
Yes.
that Nerf football, and it's time to get the
Let's
game
go.
going.
Let's go.
And that's what gets me to number 1. And it's boring, but it's the bicycle.
Oh, it's a great one.
Because it doesn't matter if you live in a cold climate or a warm climate. If you were the kid that was so lucky to get the bicycle, oh man, you'd be sliding around on the ice. You'd be freezing in your pajamas.
Freezing.
Your Huffy Pro Thunder, your Team Murray, your Schwinn.
I had a red Schwinn. I had a red
We
Schwinn.
didn't have the scratch to get a GT with the bent frame on the bottom that got the kids all excited, or a Haro or something like that. But you get that BMX bike, and you're just cruising, man.
Yeah.
Cruising
I
through
love
the
my
neighborhood,
bike, you're
chest
right.
All-time
puffed out
gift.
a little bit.
I actually
So,
still ride
nailed
my
that.
bike a lot.
Absolutely.
Like I ride my bike like.
And
What
can
you
I
got
a
for
lot.
Christmas back in the day? The nice Schwinn with the banana seat.
I
and
wish
the
it was.
handlebars
I
up
had the
here?
one with the curly.
Oh, a little 10-speed.
Yeah, the 10-speed or whatever. But no, I ride like a
Right.
beach one now.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
And
It's great.
shout out back to Nerf, to the Nerf Turbo. It was the red and black football. If you were a kid in the early 90s, this was
There it is.
it. And
Yeah.
now apparently it's on, you can get it on eBay for like a $400 or something, a
Wow.
used ball. But this thing could hum. You wanted to have an arm like Patrick Mahomes, you throw
Yeah.
this, it would add 30 yards to distance.
Much like the long-lasting power of Energizer, still going.
Still going.
You throw that football, still going. It was the aerobi of footballs.
Yes.
All right, constructive criticism. Dan, answer your critics. Here we go.
Here we
Tweet
go.
number 1.
the holiday
Taking
season.
umbrage with your rankings reads,
Trash.
Okay.
Well,
Not really
chronically
nothing you
depressed
can react to
Vikings
that.
fan.
Just someone saying.
I
trash.
assume the Vikings fan thinks he should be ahead of the Packers,
Perhaps.
but you're behind the Packers, and prove it on Monday night.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
Can you explain to me that picture that everyone has? Like, what is that? Why do so
don't
many
know.
people have that?
It's always weird when
Oh,
people
the
become
frog.
memes.
Yeah, get a
frog guy?
real
Frog avatar.
avatar.
How about no avatar from Ryan
Well,
Schaefer?
it's Facebook, right?
Lost to the Falcons as well. Niners to rankings joke.
I mean,
It's a man who's.
Oh, it's on
he-
Facebook. Okay.
He's probably
Yeah.
a man who deals in the world of legalese. He's speaking
He's
in
an
precedent
actuary.
terms, right?
Yes. No.
Hey, precedent says Saints lost to the Falcons. All right. Matt Blank, looking good with those mirror sunglasses.
So hot. He's like, oh, this is a shot. I'm in my front seat, and I've never looked better. I'm going to
Car
take the old
selfie.
selfie in a big
This is,
spot.
Yeah.
This is Cowboys Eagles. You got the Eagles up 6.
This guy's
And you got
clearly.
the Cowboys not moving up nearly enough after knocking off a Rams team that everybody said was now the proverbial team nobody wants to play. You're an Eagles fan, Dan.
I guess so, but
You
it's
are
like,
an Eagles fan.
You-
take the sunglasses
I
off.
love when people call for our jobs.
It's very nice, especially
And
in the
this
holiday
overly
season.
Must
biased
be
Eagles
fired.
fan must be fired.
Yeah. Is that it? Are we
What?
done? It's
Take
over?
the sunglasses off.
All right, it's over. We'll be
We
back
did it.
again.
Anybody that wears
next
sunglasses
week
going.
with another
is a
installment, Week
self-important
17 Power
jerk.
Rankings. And we'll be on
Still
Tuesday
going.
next week, 6 days away. And it's all brought to you by the long-lasting power of Energizer.
Still
Still
going.
going. Oh, you